Welcome, this is Blind Shovel, an arts and music podcast. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with acclaimed rap producer, Derrick Braxton. Hope you enjoy.
Hello.
Yo.
What's up?
All right, so what'd you do today?
Oh, man. Well, today I chilled in Greenpoint all day, man. Some amazing stuff happening out there. Setting up in an event with the Elm Foundation out in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. That's really, really cool. And getting them organized. Their initiative is art therapy for children. And we're doing an event over on February 18th. That'll be really, really cool. A bunch of the kids that I teach over there, I've been teaching 8 and 9 year olds how to produce in Serato Studios, and then how to DJ in Serato Studios. We just had a meeting with Serato itself, with OP and Love over there, and they were nice enough to give some licenses to this, so some kids could have some licenses and check that out. So that was really cool. And then bought some records. That was cool over at Brooklyn Record Exchange.
Nice.
Ben and those guys were really cool. And then stopped over at the Good Room Bar for a sandwich. They're synonymous with the Good Room, which is one of the best dance venues in the city of New York. And one of the guys who works over there, he DJs with us over at Beer Wax. It's pretty cool, man. It's this new community that's happening, Well, you know all about community, man. You guys are doing it over in Rutherford as well.
Yeah, well, community is complicated. Very, very complicated. Nah, I've never been to the Good Room, but I really like this one artist, Braulio, does the posters for it, and they're amazing. So I got to check that out. But in respect to, so you're teaching these kids how to produce music, is that right?
Yes. So
that would be your expertise, production.
Yeah, I'm built first out of musical production. Starting out of the gospel church in choirs.
Oh, really?
And then through choirs, and I went to private school called St. Peter's High School in the city of New Brunswick, and chamber choir, concert choir. And then, with Mr. Dillard over at Hampton University, concert choir. It just always choirs. That's how I caught melody. And putting together chords is always through that first,
So from the beginning, you were into this? Absolutely.
I mean, my mother, I had the privilege once again to hang out with my mom. I mean, my mom is pretty deep musically. My mother has over 3,000 CDs and 700 vinyl in the crib, 16 pairs of speakers. It's just madness over there, just with with equipment. And that's where it started. It started out with with the church, going to church and having to be in church for forever, and finding something to do within church that wasn't Bible study or something like,
yes.
and getting into that. And my mom, she I'm still finding out how deep she is musically. Not only just an eclectic taste over the span of music and CDs and all the stuff that she bought, but also she used to make pause and play tapes. You ever heard of those before?
No.
Pause and play tapes. It's pretty old school. We have a double deck tape deck, and you record sound from one to the other. And she used to make these very intricate pause and play tapes, and where it was almost like glitch, which is amazing for me to listen to. She has crates full of cassette tapes where she made these pause and play tapes. Is like the original DJ sets were happening from these things. And, she used to make them at the crib and make different mixtapes and stuff for her friends. But high level of audio always came from her. I mean, back in the day, you could listen to any pair of speakers. You could listen to any receiver kitted. If you want to listen to an Onkyo receiver with Polk audio backs and Bose freestyles in front, you could go to a stereo store and they would play this stuff for you, and in order to sell the equipment. And
right.
every weekend without fail. And, she would sit back and listen to all of these different things. She subscribed to Crutchfield and all these musical sound magazines, and she would listen in or look at the best possible equipment, and she would reference that equipment at these places, and to where every single one of them knew her name. When she walked in, they knew that she was really not playing around with sound. And some of these speaker systems that she has even now, they don't even make it anymore like that. So these cabinets, and it was a high level of sound since I was a child.
Is she a traditional musician in any way?
Absolutely not.
Interesting.
She learned the same way, through the gospel church and through that vehicle, singing in choirs and all that stuff, but just true appreciation for music, like a passion for music. I haven't seen it much. I've been actively in the music industry for 20 years, and I haven't seen that amount of passion in many people. So,
does she still go to church?
Yeah, she goes, man. She definitely goes and hangs out during pandemic, and hangs out, watches on television during pandemic. Our family is was heavy in the church. My grandfather and grandmother have a room named after them in that church.
Nice.
And it was something that, community, it just went from, I think because we went to the first service there. The first service had 12 people, something like that. It was done at the teen center in New Brunswick. And then now they have, I think, well over 10,000 members. It's the biggest church in the city of New Brunswick. And just seeing that even happen, it's been a thing, but it's called Abundant Life Family Worship Church in the city of New Brunswick. It's the biggest church out there. Bishop C. Wright has always been really, really cool. But I'm not the most religious dude on the planet. But showed, some structure and music on a high level. And they did a recording, I think it was like 10, and maybe about 20 blocks away from my house is the State Theater, which is the New Jersey State Theater, is down the street from the crib. And the church did a live recording of their album at this place. And I remember the first time I was like, man, you can do that, where they had the full choir come out. There's 100-person choir and all of the musicians and all this stuff. And State Theater was packed out. It holds 1,900 people. It's fully packed.
Wow.
And they're singing and they're going, and it's a whole thing. And he's like, the pastor's like, stop, wait a second, let's do it again. And they do it again. I'm like, whoa, you can do that? Like, like you can really say stop, you can do it again. And I think that was the first time I heard recording on a high level was like, wow, you can really pull it back and do that again.
Right. You like that level of control and meticulousness.
Sure. That was really cool, man.
Yeah. I'm always interested in like not lame Christian art, because there was a time where the highest art was obviously through the church, and then
absolutely
it's kind of synonymous, even though if you look at it closely, it's, a ton of rap is Christian. Obviously reggae is explicitly Christian, but most people think of it as like literally like Christian rock, which is often not very good. I could be uninformed on it. Partially what interested me about what Kanye was trying to do briefly there, although I feel like he's not trying to do it anymore, but
Sunday service, man. That was, up until a couple of months ago, that was still a huge thing, where that cross, then also the crossing between secular music, right? And, the world's music and God's music, quote unquote, has been the tug and pull in between, church and state. from the beginning, and it can end up stifling a lot of artists and alienating a lot of artists from their own religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's very odd, and it's very, which is a part of it I don't mess with, man. I really think that's not really what I'm about. I'm not about the alienation of anyone.
Yeah.
No, and then going back to Christian rock, man, it's like, some of it is good and some of it is bad. There's good and bad jazz. There's good and bad anything. But I know some Christian rock bands that are not playing around.
I don't, but it means I just haven't looked hard enough. It's pretty rare that a whole genre is just not good. That's like almost unprecedented,
right? Right. Yeah.
But in terms of production, what's your, again, like, was that the primary identity you'd go by, producer, in terms of like your career?
Absolutely. I think within the past 10 years, I've been curating events and helping other people curate events, bringing artists together, bringing community artists to the forefront of, a high level of art. But 19 years old, I signed my first production deal with Swiss Beats at 19. Mm-hmm. So I'm 41 years old now. So, that's who I am. It's what I do.
So what does that mean? Like, it's kind of one of those terms like director, obviously like films are produced. You're almost talking about producing events in some ways. Sure. I think of musical production, and I think of certain producers, but I imagine they all have different ways of going about that, different levels of control in respect to what they tell artists to do. So for you as a producer, what is that role exactly defined as?
Well, for me, I've been afforded the opportunity to study under several what they call super producers. I was with Swiss Beats first. I was with him for 2 years. I was with Shay Haley and Shay Haley of NERD. Brought me into a faction, and then Chad and Pharrell out in Virginia. And then Rich Harrison. Rich Harrison did One Thing for Amerie and Crazy. He wrote and produced and arranged Crazy in Love for Beyonce. So Swiss is different training from Pharrell. Coming from the church and coming from a singing background, I was thrust into a position where it was like, oh, okay, well, we're making hip hop music, right? And hip hop music, production wise, can come from a myriad of different places. You can come from the Puff Daddy experience of it. I don't know all of what goes on to all of the recordings. I don't think anyone does with them, but Puff Daddy is looked at as a maker and a producer who doesn't press buttons kind of guy. A person who in the same way that Phil Spector may not have pressed any buttons or played any instruments on the record, but they produce or they galvanize the troops in order to make this recording. And for some production, it's a textural thing, meaning I'm going to make sure that texturally that these songs and this music sounds away. And then others come from the ground up where there's nothing made, right? And then produce, make a track, a backing track for an artist, and then make sure that whatever song the artist, either write the song yourself and then have that artist re-record it, or to have that artist to make sure that whatever that the artist lays down is in a place and fit in a place. And I rock towards the Rich Harrison or Pharrell Williams approach, which is called the 100% approach: write, produce, arrange. So write a song, make a backing track for a track, then write the song for that backing track, then find an artist who's suitable for that song, lay and record that song with that artist, replace all vocals with that vocalist, and then mix, master, engineer. Mix and master, and then to the street. Right? So
you're the puppet master in that context.
Puppet master, but also writer as well, right? Yeah, that's something that gets all producers aren't writers,
right? That's why it sounds like you do more than some people who might be called a producer.
Right. And, you know, it gets muddled sometimes. And, you know, I'm being extra careful even in saying this, you know, and responsibilities change from project to project. If I'm working with a band and I'm producing on a band, and there's a band I produced for called like Trains and Taxis out of New Jersey. I produced a record in Chicago, and they already had written all the songs. They had their instrumentation in place. And I said, listen, man, you know, well, these drums need to be mic'd like this. This needs to be done like this. This vocal should sound like this, right? And you give them a texture of what you want and the feeling that you want on a joint without contributing to the writing of the music, because the writing is already done. That's a Rick Rubin approach. Rick Rubin on Red Hot Chili Peppers didn't write those songs.
Right.
He did produce the record. You know,
yeah, my
Steve
understanding
Albini is another one who you know, he maybe hasn't written. Man, Steve Albini is like, I'm still confused on how well he records. It's ridiculous. His approach being no EQ, right? Meaning I want to get it out. I want to record it so well that it doesn't have to be EQ. You don't have to touch any knobs. You leave it all the way the way it is, and the only knobs and the only thing that you're touching is volume. Like everything is perfect already. You know, taking the time during pre-production to make sure it's all good, right? You know, in the same regard, if you have, and this is something I'm just learning about and teaching myself about, and learning from other people. If you have a director of a film, that happens too. Sometimes you have directors who are also cinematographers. That's their strong suit. And sometimes you have directors that are kitted more on the blue collar side, the grip side. You know, like however you get to the thing. Some directors are really good at imagining the entire thing themselves, and others are very good at delegating responsibility.
Right.
You know.
So I get the sense that you like to zoom out and strategize in general. That you like to see big picture. If that's an event or the album or the song, you really want kind of like a bird's eye view of what's going on.
I mean, we have, it's crazy you say that. We have a term, you know, me and one of my production and business partners, Wes. It's called the view from the blimp. Like there's a zoom out. You know, the first one is a selfie from your phone. Right. It's like a self-evaluation. And then from the block, you have all the cameras that exist on the block, like street cams and, you know, local bars, restaurants, or whatever, they have their own cameras. And then you have city cameras. And then you have a scope that's bigger. And then you go to Google Maps and you start zooming out more and more. And when you lose, you know, if and when, I mean, this happens, when you lose perspective on what you're doing immediately, zooming out helps a lot, you know, so.
Well, yeah, that's like that's the key to strategy. You know, tactics are like reactive. You know, someone does this, you do that. But strategy is big. It's everything. And I too am interested in that. You know, just like kind of like trying to always expand without losing integrity, without losing potency. That's really challenging. And
very much so. And
you only have so many hours in a day, so it's like. You find yourself doing shit you didn't want to do sometimes.
Okay, this was deep. I was having a discussion with one of my buddies, a guy named Ken Cardo out of Chicago, really dope, and we've been long time collaborators, a long time collaborator as well. We made a bunch of music together, and we did a record called Escape Earth that got picked up on for Adult Swim.
Oh yeah,
and in Cartoon Network, and really cool record, and is one of my really good friends. And we were speaking about, he was speaking to me actually about powerful men, right, and how powerful people a lot of times can't divulge all of what they're thinking because of intellectual property. Like they're afraid to let someone to delegate responsibility because of the things in their mind truly are new and cutting edge. Right.
Yep.
And then because you can't delegate responsibility, you become so ensconced in the process of what you're doing in every level of it. Like normally, okay, if you have an idea to to make beer, you don't have to figure out how to blow the glass for the bottle.
Yes.
Right. So it's, Dr. Dre, for example, is using, and that was the example he used. He is doing everything. Right. But I mean, Dr. Dre, is experiencing like health problems from that. He had an aneurysm.
Right.
Off of just overworkload. I don't know all of what goes on, but I mean, this guy, he does everything. He hasn't been able to, because it's such a level of sound. He hasn't been able to delegate some of that responsibility, and I don't want to be caught in that process.
Yeah, that's a flaw. That's a flaw. Like I have it for sure. But like, if you can learn to teach people and trust them and accept that they're going to make mistakes here and there, you're going to have a more powerful empire than if
how have you been dealing with that, man? Man, seriously, difficult to relinquish control especially when certain things are going to go wrong. Allowing people the latitude to figure out on their own can be difficult.
It's just I think about winning the war and not the battle. That's basically strategy for me. It's like I just have to accept that if I do want this larger scale, if I want bigger impact, there's going to be trade-offs in every day.
Right.
And it's real different than sitting in a room drawing all day alone. Like that's a very different battle. But I recognize that process was actually deteriorating my health, probably more than being stressed out all day trying to make people, get to where I think they should be, or vice versa, and them trying to get me to where they need to be. The humanity heals a lot more in that process. But when you're just sitting down between you and a piece of paper, there's definitely spiritual moments, but it's not like it's praying or, my one friend is always very cautious. Like, don't be convenient about making art and calling it prayer. Like, they're different, and you can't just collapse them and to make it convenient for you time wise. Like, they're different practices, and I used to argue against that. But that's when I thought artists were gods, and I don't think they are anymore. So that's a whole nother story.
It's deep. I mean, once you acquire a certain, all of us have a certain level of talent, right? But talent is whatever, man. A lot of people have a lot of talent, but you don't get, 20 years of been doing this. You don't get there with talent. No. I mean, it's like this as well. I mean, if you work within the artistic space or any space, talent gets you to a certain point. But after a while, it's like, man, I am in love with this process. I love seeing it begin and all of the muddle in between. Right. That's what I'm in love with as well. I'm in love with seeing something spawn from nothing and then turn into something.
Yeah.
But in knowing that talent runs out, you also know that all of this is not coming from you. Right. So it's like, most times when somebody has like an incredible idea, or, most times when I've experienced that, it's happened so fast that it can't be me.
I would agree. Yeah, I don't think you can achieve the objectivity required to scrutinize your own work without that realization. Because if you get emotionally entangled by each move and thinking it's the best move or the worst move, I think it severely hurts the product. But if you're in service of the idea that has come down from above, and you know that you need to do the best you can on this human plane to make it the best it can express itself, you can have humility afterwards, even when it's great, I think, because it's a shared process. Sure, man. It's like, this stuff is, you're just pulling it from the air. Now, it is an artist's responsibility in order to keep tools sharp. So when we're a mechanism, man. So when it does flow down, we can just grab it. Rather than, I need to grab this, and this. It's our responsibility to say, okay, I'm going to be ready when it happens. Yeah, right? And that's why I wonder about that kind of, like you were talking about. And I would say maybe they're not powerful men in some sense, but they are men that have potentially unique ideas. But I think being scared of letting go of those might have a bad effect. Like, I think there's an infinite amount of abundance with that, especially when you give it. Now, of course, someone can steal your idea and they hit it big, and that's unavoidable in some ways. But I think clamming up and not letting that stuff flow.
This is the interesting way to look at it, right? So I've been digging into Rick Rubin, as of late, right? And like the guru, and the Sherpa of music, right? And his approach is, if an idea comes and you have this amazing idea, that the universe has provided this idea, and that it's given to all, right? And if you pick it up first, then cool, no problem, right? But either way, that idea must happen. It's not like it's not you. That idea must happen. It must perpetuate itself. It must occur, right? So when you start thinking about it like that, there is no way for your idea to be taken, right? And it gets rid of some of the bitter and angst of art, man, because it is very competitive as well.
Yeah, I believe that to be true in some sense. And Rubin's a little too, I've watched his interviews and stuff, and I respect.
He's a little loose.
He's a little too hippie, new age for me.
Sure.
Because this is true, but the shape of the vessel, that it's received through is what's important. Like, no one would argue if I got a musical idea and you got a musical idea and Kanye got an idea, like that it would be expressed the same way. Right. It would be completely different. So sure, the ideas are floating around, but I think there has to be an acknowledgement of what's receiving it as a unique individual.
Yeah, I mean, it's schools of thought, man. But it's very easy to say that thing too. When you started like Def Jam recordings when you were like a kid.
Sure.
It's easy to say these things after the fact.
But it's easy to be a hippie after you're at the top. Yeah, man. It's a different game. You're in a state of luxury. Like civilizations, when they're in luxurious states, they can dabble in these kind of abstract, luxurious ideas. But when they're building themselves, it's war, essentially. It's gather resources. It's protect yourself. And I think everyone has to recognize where they're at as an individual in respect to that trajectory. Because, advice is a tricky thing because we're not always in the same place when people try to give it and get it. And I try to listen as much as I can to others, but I always keep in mind where they're at, in relation to where I'm at.
You must.
Yeah.
I mean, you must. I mean, people who say, you can get something from everyone, of course, but you do have to. It is countered by where that person is and level of experience, and whether you're going to trust their level as opposed to yours.
True.
Right?
I mean, you can get something for people who suck at what they do. You can get a lot from them because you can see what you shouldn't do, and that's mostly what you're going to get. Hopefully, one has the blessings of being around people better than them. I mean, that's very important.
Well, and, how do you go about, and this is something that I'm actively doing and always actively doing is how do you deal with having an understanding of where you want to be, where you're at, and the art that you make and the art that you want to make, and then bringing in other ideas, other thought. Like, where do you land on that stuff? Because it's always a battle with me, and I try to learn new things. I mean, there's people in the world who only know me as a producer. That's all they know. Mm-hmm. And there's people who only know me for DJing. That's it. I would never call myself a DJ, but that's all they see is just me spinning records. And then there's people who only see me within community work. So creating these different parts. I mean, back it's Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
being able to not just a jack of all trades, but having a level of expertise at all these things as well. It's difficult to take in all of the information, especially when a lot of it I'm learning, and this may also could be coming from a position of privilege, and me not having to go through the whole rigmarole of finding people, when you're 26 or 30, or, I started out so young, and I knew people who were so heavily involved in the music industry at such a young age. I don't know. I don't really know the starving artist thing. I didn't see that off jump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm figuring out like, oh, okay, well, because a lot of these new things that I'm learning have the same people involved, so I'm not starting from nothing.
Right.
I don't know in life experience too. Like me coming in as a 40-year-old and learning something new within art, I'm not coming in dry. Like there's certain life stuff that happens. Right. I'm still trying to figure out how to. And I think it's an ongoing process. I think what will happen until I pass is, how do you take all of it into account, right? Without really sounding like, not the best guy, not like a know-it-all, or, it's
well, here's the truth. Nobody, especially in today's age, envy is cultivated and promoted, I believe. Like, it's real hard you have to be mature to recognize someone's better than you and to listen to that person. Most people are just gonna, they just don't like being in that inferior position. I find that to be a problem in modernity. Like, I think people have a hard time acknowledging that, like, there are people who are just much better at them and me at certain things, and that you should just listen. But I just feel like the internet has emboldened a certain faux expertise in everything, and
because you don't have to do any research. Well, I'm sorry, not any research, but you don't have to do all of the research in order to come to the conclusions. You can scave over information like quickly on your phone and have a rudimentary, at least, understanding of what's going on. And it's just like, dude, you're missing all of it. It can't, these things, knowing the experiences of Rick Rubin can't happen from a Wikipedia page.
Right, it's missing the process of acquisition of wisdom and knowledge. It's just it's a A and B, but with nothing in between.
Sure.
And, you're constantly in a position of having to prove your expertise to people. That's just the reality of risk mitigation for clients, Well,
okay. I'm glad to hear that somebody else goes through that too, because it can be a thing that, it's a lonely place. To have established yourself within, any mastering a thing, I'm at 30,000 hours, 40,000 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a long period of time, and just, coming into the elevator speech of a situation and saying, okay, well, this is what I do. This is what it can be a thing, but I'm really happy to be in a position where most people don't, when they meet me, man, especially now, most people when they meet me, they have no idea what I've done and what I've accomplished within the musical realm. I've been nominated for multiple Grammys. I've, it's accounted for over 100 million records sold. That's like a whole nother thing,
Mm-hmm.
and, coming across as humble, and making sure that you're on an equal and level playing field so you can learn, right? Because I'm also at an age where people don't teach me anymore, right?
You mean like they don't have anything to teach you?
No, absolutely not. Everyone has something to teach me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
so what do you mean?
They won't teach me. I mean, what I mean by it is you can catch it off of life experiences, a conversation. You can surmise these things on your own. Yes. But I mean, actual teachers, if I say, listen, man, can you teach me how to whoop, 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 do this thing? They won't, because I'm competition. Now, younger people, they'll teach a young person anything, right? because they're not viewed as competition because they're lacking experience. But when you have a certain amount of experience, people think that you're going to use these tools in order to. It goes back to ego, and then also that competitive spirit. But jealousy can be a thing. I don't know where all it comes from, but people aren't chomping at the bit in order to teach 40-year-olds something. It's very odd,
Well, scarcity is a thing. Like, you can talk all new agey about abundance and whatnot, and I do believe in maintaining that mentality. But then there's also just like the real objective and brutal reality of certain scarce aspects to life. And
there's not enough of everything. There isn't.
No.
If there was, it'd be more people would be in a better position.
I don't begrudge any. I mean, it's petty for sure, but I like competition. I think competition should be healthy in the sense of like, everyone likes a good sports game where it's like back and forth and tight, and both teams are expressing the best and pushing each other further on.
Steel sharpening steel, man.
That's right.
I mean, it's the only way to achieve. It's the only way to master something is to be up against a worthy adversary.
Yeah, and ironically, those should be your friends.
Sure.
Yeah, your friends should be adversaries. At least that's what I look for.
And that's what I was talking about. It's just like finding having a pivot to find the new friend group, and having no ego, rolling into a situation and saying, you know what, man, I know these guys are better than me, and I want to be better, right? Not for the way that it looks, but I truly want to be better, and I'm not afraid to be not as good as these guys in public, right? That happens too. Where it's you know what I mean, man.
No, that's why I have trouble learning a second language. It's so hard for me to abandon 3 decades of vocabulary and then just like try to learn how to say hello. Like, I'm so bad at the humiliation of mispronunciation or saying the wrong word. It's something I need to work on.
I have the same thing, and I have the same thing with languages. I lived out of the country multiple times, and man, I wish I hadn't seen behind the curtain, man. What you're speaking about, I've seen your work. I've seen the kind of artwork that you make, and you've mastered a level of art. So when you've mastered a thing, the process that goes into mastering it, and it can be daunting, right? And then two, it's like you're just like, man, I've done this, I've mastered this, and now to dive into it, I don't know, it can be off-putting, and I never caught it either.
I appreciate that, but I don't feel that way about comics. Are just so crazy. Like, there's so much complexity to comics, the relationship between the panel to the next panel to the whole page to the whole book. In no way do I feel that I've mastered it. Drawing, I've drawn for a long time, in different capacities, but you probably feel similar in this way, that like I will still be figuring it out until I die. It's it's just, the suffering is real, and I mean that in a good way. It's just endlessly not entertaining, but it beckons. It just wants more of your time. It's just, the hard part then is as I found, as I enjoyed life and humanity more, I was just losing time for that very antisocial activity. This is the hard balance. This is the hardest challenge I face right now, I would say.
What about have you looked at it from the perspective of, okay, well, this is a battle, but okay, one of the things I say all the time, and I really mean it, is you have to live life in order to make art, right?
Yeah.
So the life experiences that you regain and garner from that new relationship may be the bridge over the water of a block, for lack of a better term, right? And until you live that life, you'll never get over the barrier of art. Right.
No,
And you know, it's like this tug and pull, man. And it's great even speaking about it, like, and even seeing that other artists go through this. You know, like it's like, man, it can be daunting. And then on top of it, just living life and doing like the mundane stuff, and then having to think about making sure that your tools are sharp so that you can cut up all of this art. You know, oh man, different parts of the brain. You know,
it's true, but there's always a balance. You know, like there you could go off in the woods and just produce forever, draw or whatever, and the work will probably lose some connection to humanity. But I think the technical skills will increase dramatically.
Sure.
You know, a human lifespan's an interesting amount of time. There's like, if you sit down and you ask yourself, how many more albums can I produce? How many more comics can I draw? And you really look at it honestly, it's pretty shocking how little, in a sense, how little is left.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, it's okay, and that brings back in the collaboration and delegation.
Yes.
So those are two very different numbers. If if Dr. Dre puts several different engineers into the mindset of, okay, this is how Dr. Dre record is produced and made, right? And this has happened a lot of times with production, like where producers have adjacents, meaning other producers who produce under their moniker. I belong to some of these faculties at points.
Under their name, huh?
Absolutely. So sometimes under name. But I mean, with me, it was never under name. I mean, Swiss, you know, I was signed to Swiss as a producer, but he always gave credit. You know, and I mean, it's an absolute blessing. I mean, some of the horror stories that you hear about, people not receiving publishing or whatever, man, Swiss really, really showed a lot of love, man, and making sure I knew and maintained my intellectual property. He was like really, really dead set on it, and at a time when it wasn't popular, you know. So, but you know, going into a thing was like, all right, well, I'm okay. This is another thing that I've been thinking heavily about is, if I just give, right, all of my ideas, if I give all of them away to everyone, will I have the same yield, right, as if I kept them for myself, as I would if I kept them for myself, right?
Depends what you mean by I in that sentence. So, like, will you have the same yield? I bet you'd have more.
Yeah.
You know, I bet you'd end up. I don't think having ideas is that difficult. If you're
not.
No.
It's part of what we do. It's like saying to, it's like, okay, well, it's saying to a bus driver, you know, how many miles did you do? It's ridiculous. It's like, I drive a bus for a living, right?
Right.
To have an idea. I mean, if I don't have any ideas and I'm an artist, I'm gonna go chalk it up, right? So these things are coming down. I definitely get that point.
I just think I don't know. Yeah, I do believe there is some mystical quality to just putting it all out there and giving. You know, I think at least I went to art school and it was a very different environment. It sounds like what you do as from a production standpoint is naturally kind of social and collaborative, but in art school you really get forced into this kind of solitary production. And you know, after school I collaborated a lot with other people and found it very satisfying. But coming from a family of 4 brothers where there's 5 boys, it's just natural that I try to wolf pack up It's just like a very natural instinct.
Sure.
And drawing was lacking that. And I wasn't even playing sports at the time. So when I'm doing those two things, not playing sports and drawing, that's a problem.
It's complete solitude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's what I catch when I'm doing the first incarnation of like making a thing. I'm alone, and then most times I'm alone, I should say, if I'm not just making a track in studio, right, like off cuff, and then at the end you're alone. Like during editing, mixing, mastering, you're a dolo, man. No artist is gonna be there with you. You're like, whatever you think.
But yeah.
So those are two time periods where it's like really alone, just looking at I just got like glasses. Somebody gave me, a very, very nice person gave me some glasses today because I'm having issues with seeing. Really? You feel me? Like I don't know. I'm like, man, like I can't see the screen anymore. It's like I'm squinting now because I've looked at this screen so long. Or just ear breaks, like because I
never heard that term, but I think I know what it means.
Yeah, music is difficult. I wish that I was endeavored in a different art form where I could listen to music when I did something else.
Yeah, right? I interviewed my good friend Dory. He said the exact same. I asked him what he envied about visual artists, and he said, I just like that you guys can do it while you're just like, you could be listening to music while drawing. You could be listening to a podcast. Music is, that's all you're doing. You got to be it, man. You got to be in it.
You have to be all the way in it, man. And there's no phone calls. There's no text messages, really. You have to be, if you're not, but now, listen, I don't sit. I used to do a thing where I just sat until it happened, right? I don't do that anymore. I allow for inspiration to happen, and then you go, right. And that's been far more fruitful.
What do you mean? What's the difference between sitting and allowing?
Where you make, I designate my morning to, I set up my laptop and I set up my headphones, and I designate the first 30 minutes when I wake up to either creating something new or listening to something with fresh ears, right. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't, but creating this time, creating this pocket where you have a clean palette, it just doesn't exist in any other time or space. It's either very late at night where it's quiet or very early in the morning where it's quiet, where you have this blank slate.
Solitude.
Oh man, it just doesn't happen.
It's a God thing in my view. I do think like there's many ideas about this, about how like individuals come up with great ideas and then groups execute them. I do think that's mostly true. I'm also reminded of, I don't like Big Sean at all, but I do like the line, "I don't wait, I marinate." I always found that idea interesting.
Sure.
That there's no
don't move until you like Bobby Fischer. Don't move until you see it. Mm-hmm. Right? That thing. Don't move anything until you see it. If you don't see it, it's like you're just moving. You're moving in the shadows, man. Like there should be something to invigorate something, and then also the crazy thing is, hypersensitivity to sound is crazy. Like a siren will throw you off. Anything will throw you off in that time, right? So having a blank slate, me and my boy Ken were talking about just like how clean our space has to be. It's very odd, right? Like it can be chaotic in other places, but workspace has to be a thing. It's like this has to be. I have to be able to shut off my mind to anything mundane, to nothing. Everything's out of sight, and then boom, hit this thing for a hot second. Then I'm good.
Yeah. It's like
once it started, it's over.
The material realm shouldn't interfere.
Sure.
Like any mess will pull you back into the material realm.
That needs to get fixed, or this needs to. Yeah. No, then you're done. You might as well wait till tomorrow.
So from from being a producer at 9, you said 19?
Yes. Well, I started producing like around 17, 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 19, like actively in the industry.
How do you think it's, in the over 20 years coming from the beginning, what were your expectations and how is it different?
It's been a great ride. I mean, since a young age, I've been like involved in the process and know what it takes in order to be really good at something.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, things have changed a lot. Like I'm in this weird place that won't ever exist again. I came through three different, or definitely two different formats. Hardcore. The first record I ever recorded was on tape. We had to like splice the tape, thing. Like pressing. I'm still blown away by it, that you can press a button and record again and not spin back a tape machine.
Right.
Like, like coming from that and then into CD and hard disk kind of thing, like outboard gear, drum machines and all that, to a thing where you can just be at a laptop or on a phone and make an entire track. Those things have only helped me, right? For a lot of people, they put themselves completely within their medium. But within visual arts, you'll have a couple of guys who are really, really good at sculpture and then really good at oil paint, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but that doesn't happen all the time. Mostly, people stick to their medium. Like if I make records on an MPC, Akai MPC 2000, 3000, or 2000 XL, that's what I make it on. Or if I make it on guitar, right? That's what I make my music on. And now you're seeing people who can switch in between different DAWs, different digital audio workstations, or deal with just straight instrumentation, take it all the way back to just microphones and instruments, and being able to tug and pull and go between all of these different things, having the analog and the digital has, become a weapon.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to hear you talk about that and then think about just drawing. Drawing has been a pencil on a flat surface for a really long time. Except, you bring in Photoshop, it changes it up a bit. But
yeah, Photoshop, you got guys on iPads. You have different ways to do it. Different strokes being had, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I almost don't like it. Made me think of AI because that's something I've been thinking about this month. And man, I don't even want to talk about it. Actually,
just you saying that though, that seems like it should be like. And I've known you for a short period of time, but that seems like it's going to be a thing with you.
I mean, I get that a lot. I've been getting that a lot.
Or directing, like that too.
I mean, I'll be honest. I was messing around with it today, but
yeah, man.
I think I always had that kind of like whatever horrifies me, I go towards. So, like, I'm attracted slightly to it and its potential, its power, but I'm also it certainly bums me out a little bit. Like maybe in a egotistical way. It's like there was a time when. Like, I don't know if you know the story of John Henry and the Inky Poo.
I do not.
It's an amazing story. It's kind of like a black folk tale in some ways. It's about this dude, John Henry, who's just gigantic, and he...
Oh, yeah, I know John Henry.
Yeah. And he drives...
on the railroads.
Exactly. And the Inky Poo is the machine who replaces him. And this is all of industrial evolution. There was people who were great at what they did, and then a machine replaced them. And maybe I'm just experiencing what they experienced, where like I don't think AI is there quite yet, but I'm sure there's going to be AI making beats, making, illustrations. And I can't tell if what's going to happen is we're going to really come to learn what truly makes us human, or if people are just going to forget what humanity is. And it's just going to be like this bloodbath of overconsumption. And
nah, man, I mean, I think we're already looking at from a musical standpoint, Mike. I mean, we're already looking at dude, you can I'm dealing with analog, man, where, a drum machine had seconds of sampling time, seconds,
True.
maybe, right? And some of the things that you can do, I can drag a track into one of these DAWs, into Ableton or Serato, one of these things, and then it analyzes the BPM of it. It analyzes which key it's in. You can extract every note that's played on it. I've done it before. You can slide in Miles Davis "Kind of Blue," and then extract all of the MIDI from it, meaning all of the notes played, and then have it play on a different instrument. So I don't know what level of AI that would be, but people are definitely using these robots, right, or this artificial intelligence in order to bring their thing further. And I think at the end of the day, man, whether these things are perpetuated from a human through our AI and then coming back as art, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be a human aspect as it pertains to art. We've just gone through a period where you are capable of making an entire record with like one button pressed, right?
Yeah.
And people are still choosing to do it the old way, right?
Right, because the process is
sure, the process is off. People know the difference between the process of it. They know the difference. They can feel it.
They do right now. They do right now.
Unless we're all robots.
Yeah, my thing is, like, if a child is born in a world that is heavily AI generated, like commercials, etc., like, will they know the difference? I don't know. I'm fascinated to see it. I don't want to be a cynic about it because, like, this is the pattern of reality.
Dude, I just taught a 9-year-old how to spin vinyl. So it's like they're like, and the choice is given. It's like, okay, well, like on here, it was like, wait a second, what's that? Right? These are kids. They don't know anything about anything. What's that thing? Why? Because it's physical stuff too. One thing that AI can't get or what doesn't have now, and maybe it will very, very soon, is a physical aspect of it. Like there's nothing to hold.
Oh yeah. I wonder how it's gonna achieve that. But no, there's something always intriguing about vinyl. The way it's just something that spins.
Sure.
And then also, I remember the first time I just noticed that it didn't need amplification to make sound. Like you can just like
listen from the needle.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Isn't that wild? Crazy. I'm still blown away from it. On how some of this stuff just works.
And that's why I say fuck CDs. I'm very anti-CD.
CD?
I love cassettes because now that you mention, I remember my brothers doing the same thing, and I remember in college doing the same thing where you had to like duplicate the tape, but you could I remember my friend doing I guess it's just like a tape loop,
pause and play tapes. I mean, everybody did it, man. Like we did that. Yeah, I mean, you probably did it. You guys, you wanted to get your favorite song off the radio, you did.
Yeah, my brothers had the Jerky Boys.
The Jerky Boys. Oh man.
Yeah. No, I remember my
Crank Yankers, the Jerky Boys. Oh man, so good. So
remember my good friend Jason in college making an actual tape loop with like cutting up just going inside the cassette and making like a 4-second loop. It was fascinating. That physicality is really interesting.
I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, do you want to do anything with this stuff?" Right? Because she doesn't know. She has no idea that this is even stuff. Right? It was just something that she did because she loved it. I was like, "Mom, on the real, you put in 10,000 hours on this, right? Just on these tapes." I was like, "You want to come out right now and hit Brooklyn up as an artist?" It's real talk. Just the story of it is ridiculous.
Yeah, you ever use any of that material?
No, I mean, I just spoke to her about it. She's like, I'm open to it and I'm cool with it. I just started, recording some of the conversations that I have with my mom just about music and whatever. Like I went over to her house last week and I was blown away on how much I learned just in that experience and going back through. Like, I don't know if there are too many people in the world who can go back through their original music that they listened to when they were a child. right?
Yeah.
She has it. It's like all there. She kept every CD. She kept every piece of vinyl. And you can look at it cataloged. It's like, oh, I remember listening to this record on the couch. I remember listening to this in the summer. Like this, that, And I mean, I think she's completely open to listening to using some of this content. I think that is
that'd be
like
cool.
a second childhood for her,
Yeah, you have like a library of your influences.
It's pretty dope. It's like,
yeah, it's
wow,
nice. You should make a film, short film or something.
I kind of want to, man. I think that one of the things that happens just in my community, African American community in general, these things aren't documented correctly, and
Right.
not all the time. And it's being done very well now, and I want to make sure that there's something on record on the things that she's accomplished and she's done, and that has been done in my home city and all of it.
Home city of New Brunswick.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Brunswick, man. That's I love that place. I say New Brunswick wherever I go. People get tired of it. Quite frankly, I say New Brunswick and New Jersey wherever I go. Like, even
what do you think New Jersey is when you have to explain what New Jersey is?
It's a state.
It's definitely a state. It's a state.
I mean, New Jersey is to me represents the underdog, and it put that into me where we're off of the beaten path. We're respected by New York in certain regards, and then completely disrespected in other places. But I don't think New Jersey people from New Jersey take it. We don't hate people from New York in the same way that like people from Philly hate New York people, or vice versa. Because we're not a major. There's no major cities. It's like Newark is definitely a major city. Definitely cool stuff happening out there, but it's not. It pales in comparison to New York. New York it's the biggest city in the world. You have like it's on the clock, man.
What's bullshit is like I went to school in Philly, and I always think about it from this perspective. When you look at the state of New York and the state of Pennsylvania, these cities are ours. Philly and New York are ours, 100%. By any reasonable metric, like they are nowhere near the center of their states. Like Pennsylvania is huge, New York is huge. These cities are literally on the border of New York. And if New Jersey contained New York City and Philadelphia, it would be.
If it was any other state, it would.
Yeah, it would be considered like a.
It'd be Texas.
It would be crazy. It would be a cultural. I don't know. I find that super interesting. Like that and the fact that the New York Giants are called the New York Giants. Now, the fact that there's two football teams that play in New Jersey and they're called New York that's other bullshit.
It's a lot of BS that goes on. But I mean, back to your point of, yeah, man. I mean, Texas, they have two. California has two. Every other state has like two bangers in the state, like huge cities. And proximity wise, I mean, New Jersey. I mean, who made the decision to? This is what I think about, and it goes right with what you're saying. Who made the decision to dump trash in New Jersey and then use an island, right, as a port? Like, who made the decision? I mean, you had an entire state, right, and way more land on the other side, on the Jersey side, right, to build from that side. Like, why not build New York in Newark? Why not build New York in Jersey City? Or any of these towns that are really, really close that catch all of the Hudson, right? There's no import export thing. Why New York? Why that island? It's very strange.
I don't know the history enough. I should, honestly. No, but it's always interesting. New Jersey has like this weird reputation, and I love New Jersey. I think one has to. I didn't always.
If you're from here, you have to lay there. You don't always, man. I didn't. When you're a kid, it's like, Jesus, he's catching L's out here,
No, I mean, I had to go to Philly and then Oakland, California to understand what it was. Sure. California really cleared it up for me in a good way. It just became evident, like, okay, I got to go home.
How'd you like the Bay, man? I spent a whole month last year in the Bay.
Where?
I stayed in where is it? Is it Lancaster? No, like Modesto. area.
That is
Stockton. I chilled out there. That's
why would you? I went to Thanksgiving in Stockton once.
Very random, right? It was like Stockton, Sacramento. So out of Sacramento, there's an amazing producer named DiBiase, man. That guy is a beast, right? He's a beast. But Stockton, Sacramento, Modesto to Oakland to San Fran. That's like the area kind of thing,
I have a lot to say about the Bay, but
I hated LA. I mean, I lived there multiple times. I guess I had a good time creatively. Beast mode, like incredible, right? But like lifestyle wise and personally, not the best times.
Well, I got really good friends out there. I'm actually going out there in like 2 weeks, but
cool.
I wouldn't be going there if I didn't have friends there. Put it that way.
Out in the Bay or
LA. I don't. I still got friends in the Bay because I lived there for like 4 or 5 years. But that's I could write a book on how I feel about the differences between here and there, and it just eventually didn't work for me.
Was it like a space? Was it a space thing? Meaning, I don't dig getting into the car for so long in order to get places in California. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's a component. I used to bike all the time when I lived in Oakland. I'd go up to Berkeley, and I had some beautiful days, beautiful moments. There's beautiful weather. Sure. I don't discount the fact that, we have different phases in life, and I didn't have it as together, so I'm not going to put that on California. But I had to get rid of the kind of like the dream, the California dream. Like I had this naive conception of what it was, and it was very useful to live through that and kind of shatter that and come back to reality a bit more. And also recognize that I just, I was like far more traditional than I thought. Like, oh, actually, I'm much happier when I'm around my family and in the environment that I was, from.
It's like the thing you're explaining sounds like the thing that happens to people from New York and people from Cali, where they've seen behind that curtain, right?
Yeah.
And they are able to utilize it way better than a lot of people. They are. I mean, the ones that are, because it's like, man, they've heard it all. They've heard all this stuff or whatever, especially in Los Angeles. Okay, LA, man, is such a weird place in that everyone who was ever taught that they could do anything artistically that was better than another person was told to go to Los Angeles. Everyone, every person who said they were better looking or a better artist or whatever was like, oh, you should be in LA, Hollywood, right? And then also that notion is also, man, ballooned by the fact that we've seen LA a lot visually. But like as a kid, we've seen the Hollywood sign a billion times. We've already seen the Capitol Records a billion times. We've seen the Hollywood stars. We've seen it in films and movies with quote unquote the biggest celebrities, the biggest people on the earth are have been in this place, right? And then when you get there, geographically, Cali ain't the nicest looking place. I just gonna keep it all the way real, man. Like not Cali, but LA is not the best looking place. Right?
No, it's not about that. It's young. It's a young place.
Much so.
But much love to the.
Oh no, LA is awesome, man. I mean, I tell you this. First question in New York is what's your name? First question in LA is what do you do?
Yeah.
But if you can answer that last question, brother, it moves so fast.
Yeah.
It moves so fast. I mean, there've been times in LA. There's a young lady named Natalia, and Natalia is super, super cool. She models on a very high level. And I met Natalia out in LA. Like the crew out there really made a difference too. Natalia is another guy named Christoph Berg. Christoph Berg runs the modular synths for Depeche Mode. He was running for them at the time. We went down to Santa Monica to go to Depeche Mode sessions. That was crazy. Then there's another kid named Mark Yeager. He was under Klaus and Hans Zimmer, working on the Olympics, like the music for the Olympics. And then we had right, and then we were locked out at Paramount Studios at the Cave, like this iconic recording studio. So, we had something to say, and we had something to offer to the situation. Man, the floodgates opened up. And it was this young lady named Natalia that I ran into, another dude named Chris Rogers, really, really cool guy, both models. And they were together at the time, great couple, hung out with them a bunch. And Natalia she was so cool, and she's just built for LA. It's like, the cool, extraordinarily attractive, super talented, right? She was bred for this place. And she would just land in these places. It was like, Natalia, how did you get here? I remember one time she called me up, and, at the time I was living on Mount Olympus. We had this like 5-bedroom place in Mount Olympus. And, it was like really, really nice. But I mean, there are levels to Mount Olympus, right? Like, for real. If, there's a bunch of houses out there. And she was like, oh, come up the hill. And I keep going up the hill with this car. And I'm like, man, this car may not even make it up the hill. It was like, we're at the top of this hill. And we get to this crib, and the police are security at this house, right?
I've never heard of that.
I'm like, who lives here, right? And it was one of the heads. I won't name it, but it was one of the heads of a major studio owned this house at the top of Mount Olympus, right? And I'm like, man, there's no way we're getting in here, right? There's a line outside. There's police at the door checking. You feel me? Like, it's like, there's no way, right? And we're at the door, and I'm like, I'm just dressed in like sweatpants, and, it was just out and about. And she called me. And I go on my boy, we go to the door. I'm like, man, well, let's get out of here, man. And as I'm about to say that, here comes Natalia out of the thing. I was like, yeah, they're okay. And then we go into this house, and it was an Olympic size infinity pool. Like, who has this? Right? Like, who does this? And we're sitting, me and my boy were just sitting up here. We're like, wow, man, it really is. There is a key to this thing. And if somebody possesses a key, you can open all these doors quickly. Now, whether or not you can stay behind these doors is something entirely different.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, man, there's a difference. There are definitely levels, man.
It's a different world. It's a different world.
It's amazing.
It's
amazing.
But at this point, what are you looking forward to project-wise? What are you trying to do before you die?
Man, the stuff we're doing over at Williams Center and have done over there, that's really, really cool. Just going into you guys' spaces has been incredible, really, really dope. And it's been inspiring for us and on our plight. The Elm Foundation in community work over in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. But I mean, mostly, man, we're hometown kids, man. We make sure that we give back to where we're from. We're working with Chris and Raekwon over at NJ Skate Shop, and we're giving away 100 boards, 100 helmets, and a bunch of equipment to kids in New Brunswick, New Jersey. That's like in a park that myself and Wes, we grew up there.
Nice.
Doing that kind of stuff, and we're up for a lifetime achievement grant with the New Jersey State Arts Council. That's really, really cool. But mostly. It's I wake up and make tracks every day, man. I like making music. I love making music. It's my life's work, and that has to be at the forefront of what I'm doing, or everything else falls and fades.
Do you still have ambition in respect to those tracks, or do you feel like you've accomplished all those kind of accolades?
Absolutely not. I mean, what I'm digging into now is like uncharted territory. I did some of this kind of stuff. Like I did, I'm talking about film scoring. Everything that I've ever done was to score film. It was, being from inner city, that was the way to go, right? was musically was to become a music producer, a hip hop music producer, and make it out and do that. But from the beginning, I've always been looking at which music producers come from a background of musical production. Danny Elfman being one of those guys. He had the band with Oingo Boingo.
Oh yeah.
And now we're seeing it happen on a very high level with Ludwig. And this kid Ludwig is the best musician, in my opinion, one of the best musicians in the world right now. A person who can win. The goal is, man. The goal is, from my standpoint, is to win producer of the year, non-classical, right? That's the number one Grammy that you can get on that side, and then in the same year that you win best original film score. That's only been done by a couple of different people, man. I mean,
so you like to keep the metrics tangible.
Absolutely. I mean, it's there's nothing new under the sun.
Who the fuck is Ludwig?
Ludwig is Ludwig. I won't even try to pronounce his last name. I'm terrible with it. But Ludwig, it starts with a G. His last name.
Yeah, Goranson, I think.
Yes.
He did the fucking Mando.
Yeah, he did Black Panther. He did Creed, but he also produced for Childish Gambino. Right, in the same year, he produced "This Is America" in the same year that he won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. I mean, film score with Black Panther. This kid is a monster, and he's super young. He's like, I think he's 30 something.
So you're trying to get on that Ludwig level.
I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it already. I don't think I'm not as presumptuous to think that I'll be on that level, but I mean. To not try to achieve that level is to lie to every kid that I ever taught.
Oh yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal, But just scoring film, catching someone else's thought dream, being a smaller piece of the puzzle. A film is a big puzzle, man. With hundreds and hundreds of people being involved, and a song and a record only has maybe 5 people involved.
True.
Depending on, so.
No, I was actually going to ask you if you were interested in that, just because, again, it's that kind of expansive, big picture kind of project. Yeah,
we just, me and JT, over at William Center, we just were over there. We were working on a scoring project. That's, you guys have all those huge screens up there. I'm like, man, cue it up.
Oh, for sure.
It's what I always wanted to do. When I was a little kid, my mom used to put on she had Superman, the Superman score from John Williams on vinyl, and she would put it on, and then she would put me up on her legs, and I would wear a towel around my neck like a cape and fly. Like that was listening to the Superman score, listening to Terrence Blanchard. Or any of these monstrous film composers that have happened from this, man. Hans Zimmer, with like how he's taken both analog and digital and mixed them together to where you can't tell if it's a real choir or a fake choir or what he's doing. Right. His sound design excellence, and then some of the other guys who are off of the beaten path. Jeff Barrow. I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Barrow from Portishead, but he's doing a monstrous job scoring some films. He's, there's a musical, film production house called 824 Films. That's you already know 824. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And
I hope to work with them soon. In terms of distribution wise, that'd be great.
Seriously. Then he has but Jeff Barrow scored Ex Machina. Yeah. And there was one other one with Natalie Portman that he scored. But these big drone, huge sound, it all falls into each other. I'm starting to speak to a lot more house DJs and DJs who are synonymous with bigger systems. The first big speaker systems, or some of the first big speaker systems, happen in theater houses, right? So for these early clubs, we were pulling them out of old theaters, in order to make their clubs.
Well,
you know, I mean, you know, I went downstairs and saw, you know, you guys have some of those things in your facility of, you know, the humble beginnings of, you know, live sound.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's pretty nuts.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I think you're already there, man. You know, it how about this? It turns into this, man. You know, I've made a 20-year career off of having one piece of equipment in my grandmother's basement.
True.
Right? And have made records that have echoed throughout the entire world. I mean, for Lupe Fiasco, the Cool album, he's had a 15-year anniversary on Summer Stage with thousands upon thousands of people there chanting every word. And that happened. I made that record in my grandmother's basement. Right. So, I mean, these small things, you know, of course you can have all the bells and whistles and stuff, but it doesn't take all of that to be inspired, man.
Actually, let's end it on that. What's the album people should listen to if they want to understand?
I'll say
no, from your output.
Oh, something I'm really proud of. I'll give you two. I'll give you an old one, Lupe Fiasco, the Cool album. I did Gold Watch on there. I did The Coolest and Streets on Fire with my boy Chris. Those records have stood the test of time, and I think are really, really cool records and great reflections of work. And then there's a new artist out of Canada named Aaron Martin, and I'm starting to build these weird, dope, up tempo, like scaled down up tempo club records with her, and I think she's really, really talented. What she writes, and these are two completely different processes. Like one with Lupe in studio, the whole thing, and then another where I'm just sending over a track, and then it comes back, and it's done. And I don't know. It's
so that's the past and the future in a sense. Some people should listen to from the past, and some they should look forward to.
Sure, makes sense, man. Thank you so much, man, for having me on here, man. This is really, really cool, and listen to me babble on about this stuff, man. And it's really great to see from another artist, from you know, the viewpoint of another artist, like what's been going on.
Yeah, happy to. Cool. So I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'll see you on Saturday. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Peace. Thank you for listening. Music by Dory Bavarsky and Mingja Chen. Next up, we have Christopher Davison. Enjoy.